Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Touch Grass, where touching grass is the answer to everything. Today's episode is about this idea that being deeply empathetic is something to be proud of, that empathy is some kind of badge of honor. But what I want to challenge, but I want to challenge that today. What if our empathy is actually a trauma response? What if it's not the virtue we've been told it is, but rather a survival mechanism we develop to navigate unsafe environments? So let's get into it. First, we're going to start off by defining empathy and its reputation. So, empathy is often described as the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes, right? To feel what they feel and to understand their emotions as if they were your own. In theory, that sounds great, right? It sounds like you're being a great human being. We live in a world that praises empathy, especially in women. And I emphasize this, especially in women. We're told that being empathetic makes us good people, better friends, better partners, better leaders. But let's talk about the other side of that. Because what happens when your empathy is compulsive? When your first instinct is to read the room, to anticipate other people's emotions, to de escalate conflict, it even begins. That's not just kindness, that's hypervigilance. And hypervigilance, that is a trauma response. Empathy, and this is where we're going to, get into the crux of the issue, guys. I'm here to help you. Let me just remind you that empathy, and I'm going to emphasize this with everything in my being, and I hope that you can feel my energy right now because I want people, especially a woman, to break free of this narrative and to understand that empathy is a survival mechanism. I'm going to repeat that. Empathy is a survival mechanism. For those of us who grew up in unpredictable environments, whether that was due to family dynamics, cultural expectations, or personal experiences, we learned very early, at a very early age, that our safety depended on how well we could manage the emotions of others. Maybe it was a volatile household where one wrong move could shift the mood of the entire home. Maybe it was being the oldest daughter and feeling like you had to carry the weight of emotional regulation for everyone. Empathy in these cases isn't just about caring, it's about survival. It's about scanning the room, picking up on the tiniest shifts in tone, adjusting your behavior to keep the peace. And when you've spent your whole life doing that, you start to think that that's just who you are, but it's not. It's a learned response. And it comes at a great cost. The cost of unchecked empathy, guys. So, like, what happens when you operate like this all the time? You experience burnout, emotional exhaustion, a sense of responsibility for things that aren't yours to carry. You end up prioritizing other people's needs so much that you lose sight of your own. And because the world rewards you for it, oh, you're so understanding, so selfless, you convince yourself that this is a good thing. But let's be real. When has extreme empathy ever actually protected you? Protected you, not protected somebody else, protected you. When has it actually protected you? When has it stopped someone from taking advantage of your kindness? When has it kept you from getting hurt? If anything, it's probably put you in situations where you overextend, overgive, and end up resentful. So, this is where I'm going to teach you guys not just be aware of empathy and how it is a survival mechanism, but also how to reclaim boundaries and self preservation. So, what do we do with this information? First, we recognize that just because we can feel other people's emotions deeply doesn't mean we have to take them as our own. There's a difference between being aware of someone's feelings and making them your responsibility. Secondly, we set healthy boundaries, not just with people, but with ourselves. If your first instinct is to fix, to soften, to absorb someone else's pain, pause. Ask yourself, is this mine to carry? Do I want to hold this? Or am I doing it because I feel like I have to? And lastly, we let go of the idea that empathy equals goodness. Being a good person isn't about how much you sacrifice for others, it's about how well you take care of yourself while still being kind. And I know that all of these are so very difficult. Trust me, I know, guys. If there's anybody who understands coming from a cultural background, what it is like to set these boundaries, what it is like to break down these constructs in our minds and to break free of it. I know. I know it's not easy. And this might sound like some white people therapist stuff, but you know what? They are just certain things that you have to do for yourself. You must remember that we're the adults now. You know, our parents lived their lives, our families lived their lives. You're the adult now. You need to start making decisions for your own life as they were so given the privilege when they were your age, if not younger. You know, I think back to like when our parents were like our age, they were married with families and kids and a house or whatever the case may be. So, like, we're at that age now where even though we don't have those monumental life things in our life, it doesn't make us any less of an adult and privy to making our own decisions, right? And so, yes, this might seem like, oh, you don't get where I'm coming from because, like, how do I set these boundaries? No, trust me, I get it. I get it. But I'm here to help you understand that you too are an individual. You are not a by character or standby character in somebody else's life anymore. You're not somebody else's property anymore. Not that you ever were, not that it was ever right, but I'm just saying that sometimes, especially in cultural environments, we're seen as that, right? And that's just the God honest truth. So, the point that I'm trying to make is that even though this might seem scary and it might seem like you're going against your every nature, I promise you the key to finding yourself is through breaking down these exact notions of why do I feel like I need to show up for everybody else just to make everybody else happy before I make myself happy. Is this making me happy? Is this being true to who I am? Am I showing myself kindness in doing this, in keeping the peace, in assessing the volatile person in the room? Have you ever noticed that, like, let's say, for instance, when you're out with your friends, um, you immediately rotate towards the person who is going through something? They're either going through a breakup or there's something happening at home or there's something happening with their career, and you're always the person that takes on their emotional baggage because that was the person that you gravitated towards because of your empathetic survival skills. Do you see how this is a toxic cycle? Like, you can't even live your everyday life, have nice experiences without empathy standing in the way of you actually enjoying things for yourself. Like, you paid to be there just as much as everybody else. Why do you feel like you need to earn a spot there? So yeah, it's a lot of thoughts. It's a lot of things to break down. It's a lot of old habits to break and old cycles to break and old patterns to break. But I promise you that it is the ultimate form of self-love to break these vicious cycles of empathy, and most especially seeing empathy as a virtue. Empathy is not something to strive towards. It's not a badge of honor to hold on your jacket. It's not good to be like, "Oh, you know, I'm empathetic," where you take on other people's emotions. Those are not your emotions. Those are not yours to carry. So, empathy is not something to be proud of. Empathy is not a personality trait, it's a response. And when we recognize that, we can start to make choices about how and when we engage with it. We can move from compulsive empathy to conscious compassion. That's where the goodness comes in. Conscious compassion. You are conscious of the fact that you are being compassionate to this person. You are not taking on their emotions. You are not taking on their drama or whatever it is that they're going through. You are consciously showing compassion towards their situation. But at the end of the day, that is not your life. That is their life to lead, and it is their life to make with it what it is they please. So, you move from compulsive empathy, a trauma response, a survival mechanism, to conscious compassion, from overextending to protecting your energy. So yeah, if your empathy is rooted in trauma, it's not something to be proud of. It's something to heal from. And that's it for today, guys. If this episode resonated with you, please let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And as always, remember, touching grass is free therapy. See you next time.